At 21, I've built a $30,000 per month passive Section 8 portfolio with my properties. And today I'm going to walk you through step by step exactly how to find the kind of houses that I target. So that way you can get your first property under contract and start cash flowing $1,400 a month just like I did. I'm going to show you the exact free tool that I use to find these hotspots and how to validate each market with 2 simple checks so that you're not wasting your time. Alright, step 1, we're going to use InvestorLift's free deal map. And a quick disclaimer, we're not buying the properties on InvestorLift. In fact, we're not even looking at the properties on InvestorLift, and it's because some of the ways they list the properties are kind of sketchy at best. We're using it purely for market research only. So go to InvestorLift, log in, sign up with a free account, and then go to the map. Next, you want to apply these filters. We're going to do a price maximum of, let's say, $150,000. With home type, we're only going to do single family and at least 2 bedrooms. Now take a look at the heat map itself. Red zones means there's high investor activity there. Orange zones mean there's decent opportunity. Yellow zones mean there's emerging markets, but you want to tread carefully because it could be declining markets too. And then there's the rest of it, gray or just nothingness. Skip those, obviously. This heat map shows where investors are already buying. That means deals are getting done, and that means there's demand there. And where investors are buying, Section 8 is usually working, especially in those, sub 150K price ranges. So I already put in the filters on InvestorLift. Now let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. So just zooming in, we see some orange spots on Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Baltimore. Those are all great places actually if your price range is a little bit higher, like at that 150 to 200K range. Then we also see some places in North Carolina. We see Atlanta. We see parts of Georgia that looks like Macon, Georgia, which is also a very good place. Jacksonville, Memphis. I don't like Memphis, it has a very high crime rate. St. Louis. So these are all orange zones, but is there any red zones that I'm seeing? I see a bunch of yellow, which means that there's just some activity there. Like for example, I see some in like Huntsville, Alabama. Cleveland is a big red zone. In fact, that's the biggest we've seen, 142. Looks like Detroit as well. That's where a lot of my students go. Chicago. I think that's most of it. Oh, and it looks like St. Louis is just on the cusp. I believe 100 plus is when it turns red. The next part is doing criteria tests. So now that you've picked out a potential city, we're not done yet. Next, we have to validate the city. We go to Zillow and apply the exact same filters up to 150, single family, 2+ beds. And this time we select the city in question. So for example, I will do Cleveland. Cleveland had the absolute highest numbers. So we're looking at Cleveland, Ohio, 150K, 2+ bed, and only houses. There is 430 results. Pretty good, but keep in mind Cleveland's a huge area, right? So now we want to run through a 2-point checklist. So checkpoint number 1 is the inventory. We want to make sure that there's at least 80 active listings that meet your criteria. And as you can see here, there's 430. Now, why do you need at least 80? Well, it's because the market has to have enough deal flow for you to be able to buy homes, right? If there's only 20, right? I can guarantee there's at least 20 investors doing Section 8 in Cleveland. There's no chance that you're going to be able to buy any of the 20. You're going to get outbid, they're going to be buying in cash, etc. So you're not going to be able to get the deals. And let's say you even manage to, just by luck, get one of the deals. Well, you can't scale, right? The end goal of this is, to get 10, 20, 30 property portfolios. How are you going to do that when each one is a dogfight to get? So I like to make sure there's at least 80 active listings. So yeah, if you see like 12 homes, 20 homes, even 50 homes, I think that's a dead end. The second thing you want to look for is the rent to value ratio. So you can look up comps on Zillow and affordable housing. Affordable housing is great for Section 8. So the rule is if a home is, let's use this one, $100,000, then it should be able to rent for at least $1,200 on places like affordable housing to Section 8 tenants, which means that is 1.2% of the purchase price, or the 1.2% rule, which is your baseline. So if a city hits both criteria where it has enough inventory and you're passing at least the 1.2% rule, then in my opinion, you got a winner. And it at least gives you the opportunity to not disregard it completely and to look further. Of course, when you look into the deeper stuff, right, maybe like crime rate or flood insurance, etc., then maybe it disqualifies the city. But at least with those two options, you'll know that there's a decently high chance that you'll at least cash flow. Now, let me go through and see. 100K. All right, this looks like a pretty nice home. Yeah, it looks to be turnkey, maybe some light rehab needed. Nothing more than, you know, maybe $3,000 or $4,000 if I were to guess. Okay, so now let's go to the zip code 44105 and let's put it into affordable housing. And this is a 3-bed, 2-bath. Does it say how many square feet it is? I don't know. So since it's a 2-bath, I'm gonna guess like 1,300. I feel like that's pretty normal. Let's go ahead and put single families, at least 3-bed, at least 2 baths, and let's see what we got. 1,300, 1,450, 1,468. Okay, but how is the interiors? The interior is, I'd argue, worse than our house. So I'm pretty confident we could do 1,300 or higher. I'm leaning towards 14 if I'm being honest. So it's above 1.2%, meaning this could be a great area. Now, I will say, just from what I know about Cleveland and from when I've bought there, when I've gotten students there, they are much slower with the Section 8 process. So just a forewarning, and that's actually one of the things that you should make sure you do. Continue doing due diligence throughout this process, right? Don't just use this as your holy grail. This is just to either proceed or immediately disqualify a city. You might be disqualifying Cleveland because you find out, you know, the inspections take 2 to 3 months, which is true. Okay, so if this is making sense so far, and you are serious about building your Section 8 portfolio, join my free school community. There's over 500 investors already on the inside, and I run a free live webinar 2 times a week, Monday, Friday, so come learn, ask questions, and connect with people doing the exact same thing. Now we're going to move on to multiple other examples. I'm not going to do just Cleveland. Let's break down a few markets. So we'll pick 2 or 3 live cities like right now, and then I'll go through from beginning to end without interruption. So we're going to end up checking the color zone of it. We're going to put it on Zillow, check the inventory, look up rents, and decide if it's a pass or a fail. And this part will feel repetitive, but that's the point. Once you learn this process, you can repeat it again and again. So back to InvestorLift. Let's go ahead and look at some. So we already did Cleveland. Detroit is another hotspot, it looks like. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit more. Yep, 104. Okay, so we'll look at Detroit. I actually do have students that are in my one-on-one mentorship that are looking and buying in Detroit. So I already know that it's a pretty good area, but you do need a really good realtor in the area, which I have, because it is very street dependent. Like 123 Main Street could be perfect, but then 100 feet over, 234 Main Street could be terrible. So we put in the same criteria, only homes, and we have 1,700 results, which is great. Something I do know about Detroit though, is that you want to put a minimum price of usually about 40 or 50K so that you can weed out all of those auctions. They have a ton of those there, as well as dollar homes. So let's go ahead and look at some. So this $144,000 home looks to be gorgeous, beautifully renovated, 2,300 square feet, huge place. So now we're gonna go ahead and copy the zip code, put it into affordable housing, and we'll look at 3-1 and then 2,000 square feet. So we'll do any type of baths, and we're gonna put in at least 2,000 square feet. Where is it? At least 1,800. Let's see what comes up. None. Okay, so that means that they don't put in the square footage onto the listings, which is okay. That sometimes happens. You're saying 1,400, 1,500, 1,450. This one's 1,250, but this looks pretty tiny. I'm guessing this is about 800 square feet. I want to see something a little bit bigger. Is there anything that is like significantly bigger? This one's 1,590, still not really that close. Okay, so it looks like that's pretty much as close as we're gonna get. We do see one for 1,500 right here, and I'm not seeing anything above that square footage. So it is a little bit hard to get a comp on this one. Now, can we get a comp on Zillow maybe? So rent, houses for rent, we'll look in the same zip code, at least 3 beds, only homes, and at least 2,000 square feet. Only 2, so one for 14, one for 16. All right, does this 1,400 accept Section 8? Nope, they don't. Okay, what about this 16? Also no. So I'm gonna assume that this 16 is probably as close as we're gonna get. And now we simply do the math. 144,900 times 0.012. 1738, that should be the rent at least. We're not really hitting that if I'm being honest. I feel like this is probably 1.1. So let's try again. What if we look at cheaper homes in Detroit? Let's say this, what's a good example? This one right here. 100K, 3-bed, 1,200 square feet. Interior, that looks gorgeous. Oh my God, that looks nicer than my house. Okay, definitely needs some paints. So I'm guessing put aside 3K for painting. But other than that, it looks gorgeous. Now let's look at this one. You know, maybe the more expensive homes just don't work, but what about the cheaper ones? So this is 3-bed, 3-bath, 1,200 square feet. Let's go ahead and see, last updated. 14, 15, I mean, it's the same zip code we just looked at. So we can pretty safely say that this will be at least $1,400. So 100,000 times 1.2%. Whoops, I put in an extra 1 there. 1,200. So the rent is 1,400, meaning we're actually hitting more like the 1.4% rule. Now let's look at one more place. Let's see, do we see anywhere else? Let's pick somewhere that's orange. How about Indianapolis right here? So we'll put in Indianapolis and let's look at what we have. 253 results, that's pretty good. And you know what, just for fun, let's say that this one you're only looking at 100K because let's just say your budget's less. There's only 63 results. Now immediately, remember the 2 criteria, 80 active listings and at least 1.2% rule. This fails one of them immediately. There's not 80 active listings. Now, even if we put the price to 0, there's still 71. That is just not enough. I'm sorry, but in a place as big as Indianapolis, you're not going to be able to buy these and scale effectively. Now, if the price was, I don't know, let's say 120, there's 122. So I would say if you're willing to go up to 120, then you have a decent chance. So let's go ahead and look at some of them. Let's say that this one right here, 95K. Okay, looks to be turnkey interior. How's the street view? Is this in a bad area? Judging by the endless potholes, I'd say probably, yeah, it's in a bad area. What about something a little more expensive? Obviously, this needs some fresh paint. Nope. You see, this needs a ton of rehab as well. Do you see what I'm saying now? All right, what about this one? 97K. Looks to be pretty decent. Definitely needs some rehab, but not a lot. Location? Okay, location on this one's definitely better. I obviously would need to do more research. And what do homes in this zip code rent for? Whoops, wrong one. So it is 1,200 square feet. It looks like around 14 to 1,500. It looks like 1,500 considering this one right here is literally the exact home. I'm pretty sure. Oh no, they're different, but this one looks identical. So quick math, 97 times 1.2, that's roughly 1,200. We passed. So if you're willing to go up to 120, then Indianapolis would work. Now, the last thing you want to make sure of is that when you're doing this calculation, just really quick, just do it one time. Look at what county this is in, Marion County, Indiana. Just look up the FMRs. You want to just make sure that they're higher than what you think the comps will be. So we're going to look at the FMRs, Indiana. This was Marion County or something like that. Yeah, Marion County. Okay, this is going by zip. It is 46218 right here. So it looks like a 3-bed will go for 1,590. Perfect. That is above what we think we can rent it for. So if your city passes those 2 checks and just a quick HUD check as well on the FMRs, then you're cleared to start looking further and checking to see if areas are good, zips are good, schools are good, etc. If you follow this blueprint and take action, there's no reason why you can't build a $1,400 a month cash flowing property just like I did. And if you're serious about making this year your year, there's actually a strategy that I've been implementing recently that's allowed me to build a $30,000 a month passive Section 8 portfolio. So watch the video on screen next because I will show you what it is, how it works, and how you can use it to start building a cash flowing real estate empire. As always, I'm Joseph Khateri. Have a nice day.